Welcome to Stories I Know. If you're just joining us, we invite you to subscribe our channel and give this video a thumbs up. In just a fleeting moment, we find the inspiration to weave even more tales. Kindly give this video a thumbs up, and now, let us embark on the tale. I never imagined I would become someone who crosses boundaries, yet life often leads us down paths we never anticipated. I'm Sophia, and I've shared a decade of marriage with my husband, William. We crafted a life side by side, intertwined our aspirations, and vowed to stand by one another through thick and thin. Yet, at some point, the course of events shifted. I have transformed. Perhaps it was a shared experience for both of us. In college, I crossed paths with William. He possessed a gentle nature, a sense of duty, and an understated resilience that instilled a sense of security in me. Our love story unfolded quietly, without the fervor of wild passion or the flair of dramatic gestures. It was unwavering, akin to the bedrock of a structure designed for endurance. We tied the knot in our youth, convinced that our love and dedication could withstand any challenge that came our way. For an extended period, that was indeed the case. The initial chapters of our union overflowed with affection and joy. We journeyed, built a life side by side, and nurtured one another's aspirations. Yet, as time passed, the small instances that had once drawn us nearer began to diminish. William consistently put in the effort, striving to create a secure future for us. I grasped the reason behind it. He aimed to support us, ensuring we would never face hardship. Yet, in the process, he began to distance himself from me. Our discussions turned brief and to the point. Have you settled the electricity bill yet? At what hour is your meeting scheduled for tomorrow? It's time for us to pick up some groceries. Our affection remained, yet the closeness we once shared began to diminish. I reassured myself that it was just part of the routine. In long-term relationships, this is the outcome that unfolds. The fervor may fade, yet affection endures. It was then that I encountered Jack. He was my coworker. Initially just a person I worked alongside on various projects, shared emails with, and sometimes met for coffee. He possessed a delightful sense of humor, an undeniable charm, and an extraordinary ability to make others feel acknowledged. In contrast to William, who was perpetually consumed by his duties, Jack was fully engaged. He paid attention. He observed details. It began with brief exchanges. Innocuous, I reassured myself. I would bring up a book I was reading, and he would genuinely inquire about it later. He would pick up on my stress and extend a thoughtful word of comfort. It wasn't anything untoward, merely the sort of acknowledgement that makes one feel appreciated. I was unaware of the depth of my longing for that. One day, we found ourselves collaborating on a significant project. It involved late nights, creative discussions, and extended hours spent together. Initially, I maintained a distinct boundary in my thoughts. I was in a marriage and I cherished my partner. Yet, as I spent more moments with Jack, it became increasingly clear just how isolated I had truly felt. He brought out a laughter in me that I hadn't experienced in years. He made me feel captivating, as if I were more than merely a partner handling schedules and duties. And then came a moment, a simple, seemingly trivial moment, that transformed everything. We toiled into the night, and fatigue weighed heavily on me. I exhaled slowly, massaging my temples, when he reached out, if only for a moment, and placed his hand on mine. "You put in so much effort," he remarked, a gentle smile gracing his lips. It was a seemingly insignificant moment, yet it resonated deeply, marking the first genuine connection I had felt in quite some time. I reassured myself that it was merely a casual act of kindness. Yet, as I rested in bed next to William that night, my mind was consumed by it. Not due to the contact alone, but rather the significance it carried. For the first time, I found myself acknowledging a void in my marriage. As the weeks unfolded, my bond with Jack grew stronger. I convinced myself it was merely a bond of friendship. Ultimately, we never ventured beyond any physical limits. However, on an emotional level, I found myself in a place of feelings that felt entirely out of bounds. I anticipated my work with a newfound enthusiasm. I found myself immersed in our dialogues, chuckling just a bit longer than necessary, revealing a touch more than intended. As the sun dipped below the horizon, William and I found ourselves at the dinner table, enveloped in a heavy silence. He was absorbed in his phone, hardly acknowledging my presence. I came to understand just how effortlessly we had drifted apart. How did we end up as strangers? I felt the urge to reach out, to express my sense of being adrift, to convey that I craved more from him. However, I chose not to. The following morning, I found myself anticipating Jack's smile at work. I can't pinpoint the moment it evolved into something deeper. Perhaps it was the conversations that stretched into the early hours, or the way his gaze lingered on me, as if I were truly one of a kind. Perhaps it was when I began putting more thought into my morning attire, wishing he would take notice. Perhaps it was the manner in which he awakened a sense of vitality within me that I hadn't experienced in years. One day, I found myself in an unexpected place, grappling with all I had ever believed about love, marriage, and loyalty. And the most terrifying aspect? I found myself uncertain about whether to continue or to halt. I wish I could claim that I saw the warning signs from the start and chose to step back before it became irreversible. However, the reality is that emotions don't function in that manner. One doesn't simply awaken one morning and choose to allow their heart to wander. One small step leads to another, and soon enough, you find yourself in a place you never thought possible. Jack integrated into my everyday existence in a manner I had never foreseen. It lacked any grand gestures or clear signs, at least in the beginning. It was in the subtle nuances, the way we shared understanding looks across the conference room, the way his tone became gentle when he inquired about my day, the way I caught myself glancing at my phone, hoping for a message from him. I reassured myself that it posed no danger. In the end, I wasn't in the wrong. I continued to return to William each evening, sharing the bed with him and donning the ring that represented our promises. Yet deep down, I was aware that I had started to pull away from him. One evening, as William and I lounged in the living room, I observed the stillness that had enveloped us. He was engrossed in the news, captivated by the latest financial updates, while I sat with a book in my lap, feigning interest in the words on the page. I longed to speak with him, to grasp his hand, to express how deeply I missed him, yet each time I attempted to articulate my feelings, the words became lodged in my throat. I found myself pondering whether he sensed the widening gap between us, if he longed for me as deeply as I longed for him. Yet he remained silent. I managed to persuade myself that my actions were not truly misguided. However, the reality? The reality was that I had crafted an entirely different realm for myself, a place where Jack was the individual I eagerly anticipated encountering each day. A place where I sensed recognition, value, and visibility. And then, one fateful evening, everything transformed. We found ourselves immersed in a project, the two of us alone in the office late into the night. The gentle hum of the air conditioning filled the room, while outside, the city lights danced playfully against the windows. We found ourselves in fits of laughter over a trivial inside joke that had blossomed between us. In that fleeting instant, all else faded away from my mind. Then he gazed at me, truly gazed at me, and the atmosphere around us transformed. "Sophia," he murmured. "May I ask you something?" I paused. "Absolutely. Do you find joy in your life?" The inquiry struck me with more intensity than I had anticipated. I parted my lips to respond, yet the words eluded me. The reality was intricate. I cherished William. I had crafted a life alongside him. Yet, joy? I found myself questioning the last time I experienced genuine happiness. Jack refrained from pushing me for a response. He simply observed me, his face a mask of mystery. In that fleeting instant, I sensed I was teetering on the brink of something perilous. "I ought to leave," I murmured, rising abruptly. He allowed me to continue. He made no move to take my hand or draw me closer. Yet, as I turned to leave, a sensation gripped my chest, tightening with an undeniable weight. That night, as I lay in bed beside William, I sensed the heaviness of it all bearing down on me. A decision had to be made. How do you decide between the world you've created and the emotions that demand your attention? I wish I could claim that I recognized the right choice immediately, that I paused, understood the direction I was taking, and halted myself before it became irreversible. Yet feelings defy reason. At times, the most challenging choice is the one that aligns with what is truly right. Rather than retreating, I allowed myself to descend a bit deeper. I began discovering justifications to linger at the office longer, excuses to message Jack beyond the confines of work hours. The messages began as innocent exchanges, at least initially. A lighthearted quip about a gathering, a suggestion for a read, and a warm wish for a pleasant day. Yet, it was never solely about the words. It was the emotion that accompanied them, the thrill of witnessing his name appear on my screen, the way my heart quickened as I entered the office, fully aware that he would be present. One evening, William posed a question that took my breath away. "You've been a bit unfocused lately," he remarked, his tone soft yet resolute. "Is everything all right?" I stood still. This was the moment when I had the chance to reveal the truth to him. It's not about Jack. It's about my feelings, the longing I have for him, and the desire for more from our marriage. Yet, I managed to put on a smile and replied, "I'm simply feeling overwhelmed with work." He nodded, embracing my response with unwavering trust. In that instant, a profound realization washed over me, shattering my heart. William had placed his full confidence in me, and I was violating that confidence. That night, I lay awake, my eyes fixed on the ceiling, consumed by a deep sense of remorse. What was I up to? Was I truly prepared to jeopardize everything I had created with William for something that could potentially be an illusion? Jack ignited a spark within me, yet William was the steadfast presence in my life, the one who comforted me in my sorrow, rejoiced in my triumphs, and vowed to cherish me through the toughest times. I understood the course of action that lay before me. The following morning, I entered the office with a resolution firmly in place. I intended to create some space between Jack and myself. I would concentrate on my relationship, on restoring what had been broken. Yet, as I caught sight of him by the coffee machine, that effortless smile of his made my determination falter. The reality, the complicated and hurtful reality, was that I was uncertain about whether I truly wanted to part ways with him. And that filled me with a deeper fear than anything else. The heaviness of my decisions loomed over me, an oppressive weight I could hardly bear. For weeks, even months, I found myself teetering on the brink of a boundary I was well aware I ought to avoid. I reassured myself that I was still in charge, that my actions hadn't crossed any lines, yet beneath the surface, I recognized the truth was far different. The emotional distance I had established with William was genuine. The bond one had forged with Jack was unmistakable. At this pivotal moment in my marriage, I found myself faced with the choice of who I truly wanted to become. That morning, I compelled myself to confront what I had been evading for an extended period. I gazed at my husband, truly observing him. He sat at the kitchen table, coffee in hand, his gaze drifting over the news on his phone as he did each morning. The recognition of it caused a constriction in my chest. This was the person with whom I had crafted a life, the one who had stood by my side through it all. And yet, I found myself drifting further from him. I inhaled deeply. "Is that you, William?" He looked up, taken aback. "Indeed?" I paused. The thoughts I wished to express seemed overwhelming, almost burdensome. Yet, I was aware that I could no longer maintain the facade. "I long for our connection." I spoke gently. A shift occurred in his expression. He set his phone aside and regarded me intently for a prolonged moment. "Could you clarify what you mean?" I took a deep breath. "It seems as though there's been a distance growing between us, and our conversations aren't what they once were. I hope we can remain close and not drift apart." He let out a breath, massaging the nape of his neck. "It seems I've been so absorbed in my tasks that I failed to notice how far apart everything had become." His gaze sought out my own. "Are you feeling discontent?" The sincerity in his voice nearly shattered me. "I love you," I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "Yet, there's a sense that something has eluded me. Rather than discussing it with you, I found myself seeking answers elsewhere." His complexion drained of color. "What do you mean?" Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes. "I found myself deeply engaged with someone at my workplace." While there were no physical events, I allowed myself to become too emotionally involved with another person. The ensuing silence was suffocating. William's gaze pierced through me, revealing the anguish that lingered in his eyes. The kind of pain I never wished to inflict upon him lingered in my thoughts. And yet I did. What prompts you to share this information with me at this moment? He finally inquired, his tone strained. Because I can't bear the thought of losing you, I said, my heart racing. It became clear to me that what I believed I lacked was never truly connected to Jack. It revolved around our connection. I truly value what we share and don't wish to let it go. He averted his gaze, his jaw tight with tension. I'm at a loss for words. I understand that you may not have an answer immediately, I confessed. However, I want you to understand that I am selecting you, that I desire to mend this. William remained silent for an extended period. He rose to his feet, tousling his hair with a casual gesture. I need time, he finally said, to process this, to understand what it means for us. I acknowledged it, understanding the importance of honoring that. I comprehend. On that particular day at the office, I came to a conclusion. I had to bring closure to my relationship with Jack, not merely the talks or the fleeting looks, but the deep emotional grip he maintained over me. Upon encountering him in the hallway, he greeted me with the same warm smile he always wore. However, I chose not to return it. May we have a conversation? I inquired. Certainly, he replied, his smile diminishing as he perceived the gravity in my tone. We discovered a serene nook in the office, and I inhaled deeply. Jack, I must take a step back. His brows knitted together. Sophia, what's happening? I've been deceiving myself into believing that what we share is merely friendship, I confessed. However, the reality is that I have been emotionally unfaithful to my husband. I can't continue down this path. He appeared wounded. It was never my intention to create any issues in your relationship. I understand, I replied gently. This is not centered on you. This is a reflection on my journey, on the decisions I've been navigating. I must work on improving my marriage. This indicates that I must establish some space between us. Jack nodded slowly, yet the disappointment in his eyes was unmistakable. I comprehend. And with that, I turned and left. The subsequent days proved to be challenging. William seemed remote, and I found it hard to fault him for that. Rebuilding trust is a gradual process, not something that happens in an instant. Yet, there was one truth I held firmly in my mind. I intended to stand up for us. I began to re-engage in our marriage once more. I sparked discussions and organized romantic evenings. Above all, I paid attention. I absorbed every word William shared about his day, his concerns, and his aspirations. Gradually, piece by piece, I witnessed the barriers that separated us start to crumble. One evening, as we lounged on the couch together, William took my hand in his. Though it was a modest act, its significance was profound. He confessed that he is still in pain. Yet, I also refused to let go of what we have. Emotion surged within me, causing my eyes to glisten. I am committed to taking every necessary step to rectify the situation. He grasped my hand tightly. Let's begin anew. In that instant, clarity washed over me. Love is not defined by a lack of mistakes. It's about selecting one another, even in the face of challenges. And I was prepared to select William, each and every day, for the entirety of my existence. If this narrative struck a chord with you, please take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever encountered difficulties in your relationships? What approach did you take with them? We eagerly await your insights. If you find tales like this captivating, be sure to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell to stay updated on our latest uploads. Your encouragement is invaluable, fueling our passion to deliver even more compelling narratives. Thank you for tuning in.